Right now at 5, authorities in Oklahoma arrest the caretaker of a girl with autism who's been missing since Monday.
And the snow is cleared out of our area. We're left with cold temperatures. I'll have the forecast.
Also, when it comes to children, parents face worries that something could happen to them. However, children with autism face unique risks. Shagun Bomadelli takes us to Mosaic in Pittsburgh to learn more about these risks.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Cale Chapman and happy Friday the 13th.
And I'm Sam Lane sitting in for Chris Warner this morning, and we have a pretty nice day across the area with radars all clear this morning as 24 hours ago we had the snow this morning. Well, yesterday morning we had the snow, but now that has moved away and now we're just left with the cold air in place, and we're going to be seeing improving road conditions, of course, no real problems like we had yesterday in southeastern Kansas. And if you're traveling in southwestern Missouri, things looking pretty good this morning as well. No problems whatsoever with transportation issues this morning, and that's pretty good news. Let's take a look at your planning your day. We're going to be seeing temperatures remaining chilly for the most part. 39 degrees for the high, around lunchtime around 36 degrees. Maybe a few more sunshine beams out there this afternoon by 5 o'clock with 36. And then by 8 o'clock we'll start to drop down close to freezing with a temperature of 33 degrees. Looking down the lane, we're going to be seeing, well, this was from yesterday, we're going to have a chilly day today, a warmer weekend, maybe some rain on Monday, and we'll have all the details on that coming up in just a little bit.
Sweet, thank you, Sam. Well, the state of Oklahoma carried out its first execution of the new year. Scott James Izember received a lethal injection last night at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. He was pronounced dead at 10:15 p.m. Izember was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for the 2003 killing of A.J. Cantrell, as well as a conviction of second-degree murder for killing Patsy Cantrell. The state's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 to reject a clemency recommendation. After the execution, several members of the Cantrell family spoke of the pain the family has endured and voiced concern at the length of time it took for Izember to be executed. Izember's execution was the 8th in Oklahoma since the state resumed executions in 2021. While authorities in Cyril, Oklahoma have arrested the caretaker of Athena Brownfield, a 4-year-old girl with autism who's been missing since Monday. Alyssa Adams was arrested on 2 complaints of child neglect. Police were notified Tuesday afternoon that Athena was missing after a postal carrier found her 5-year-old sister. The next day, several law enforcement response teams and volunteers completed a grid search of the entire town, including empty homes and local waterways. They even used search dogs and drones. Unfortunately, that provided no new information. Her whereabouts are still unknown. And when it comes to children, parents always have safety concerns around strangers and the risk of walking alone in the community. However, children with autism may face unique risks.
Hardest things as a professional and a parent is how to teach your children to be safe and not always speak with strangers. I think that's always the first rule of thumb, is that you have to teach your children to be leery and also to be aware that it's okay to talk to people, but don't just go up and talk to strangers.
For more information on Mosaic and the services they offer, you can check out their link on our website at koamnewsnow.com. On Thursday, a couple of committees met to discuss water issues affecting Kansas and the region. Officers from the 14 regions of Kansas gathered in Parsons to discuss issues such as harmful algal blooms, sedimentation, and aquatic nuisance species such as zebra mussels. Another topic was concerns about the dam in Coffeyville, Kansas.
That affects all of us that use fuel, and so that's how it spreads the impact to everyone. So if they're not able to pull enough water, or if the river flow is low enough that their intake pumps are not functioning properly, then they can become damaged, and then everybody that uses fuel would be paying for those damages.
The committees also discussed the impact of the drought. The committee will meet again next quarter. We'll have more on this story in our 6 o'clock show. A Southeast Kansas teacher is being recognized with a state award. Alan Paxson has worked at Chitopa schools for nearly 45 years, teaching music and directing the school's band and choir. On Thursday, he was surprised with an award from the Kansas Music Educators Association, Outstanding Music Educator of the Year.
The thing that I would like for them to do is to have an appreciation of music, and something that could be a lifelong endeavor for them, even if they don't participate in it, just that they have an appreciation for it.
Mr. Paxson also won this award in 2010. We'll have more on that story in our 7 o'clock show. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Missouri Southern men's basketball team puts their 6-game winning streak up against Washburn. We'll have if they manage to keep it up or not in sports. Plus, a legal battle is underway between consumers and big tech as the right to repair gains more traction, even becoming a law in New York. And a new study shows how doing acts of kindness could help with anxiety and depression. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning.
Welcome back. It's 5:08 this morning. Both the Pittsburgh State Gorillas and the Missouri Southern Lions were in action last night in MIAA conference play. Missouri Southern was at home hosting the Washburn Ichabods. On the women's side, it was an important game for the Lions. They're trying to snap a 3-game skid and get back over 500 in conference play. Kicking things off the first, Lions get right into it. Caitlin Honeycutt drains the 3. Lane Skiles now off the fast break, and she scores 2. Not much scoring here in the first, but check out the passing here. Stokes to Skiles to Grant to Maddie Stokes, who hits the easy layup. And Maddie Stokes, 10 points, 15 boards. Second quarter now, Lacey Stokes hits the layup. More on her a little bit later. Tied at 22 at the half, but this is where things start to open up for the Lions. Lacey Stokes lays it up for 2 and gets the foul, and Southern takes off. Stokes at the buzzer at the end of the third. Dagger, she scores 18 points on the night with 5 steals, and the Lions take over the second half, winning 61-45. Here's head coach Ronnie Russell on the turnaround in the second half.
When we started the third quarter, those first 4.5 minutes, I thought we were really good offensively. We got some really good looks. Got to lead out to either 8 or 10 points there in the first 5 minutes, and which I thought was huge. And then again, we continued to guard and take things away from them and didn't give them any easy looks at the basket, very few of them, which again, when you're doing those type of things in this league, you got a chance to put yourself in a good position to win ball games, and our kids did a great job of doing that on both ends of the floor.
The Missouri Southern men, they put their 6-game winning streak on the line against Washburn, starting off with Winston Desereau. He sinks it for 3. More on him a little bit later. Avery Taggart hits the layup. He finished with 13 points for the night. And now back to Desereau. Nice pass off the rebound, and he dances it in for the layup. And Desereau scores 12 points, shooting 55% in field goals. Southern stays hot as Sigmund drains the corner 3. And the same spot in the pass from Thompson, but Desereau now hits another 3 from the corner. Back to Taggart as he hits the jumper for another 3 for the Lions. And the Lions dominate in this one and keep the winning streak alive, winning 70-50. Now on to the Pittsburgh State Gorillas. They're also at home, or they were at home, for a conference doubleheader, hosting Emporia State. And PSU women, they are 6-3 to begin MIAA play and have won 6 of their last 8 games. On the other side, Emporia State kind of struggling right now, losing 4 straight coming into the night. First quarter, Karina Gerber working inside scores and gets the foul. 13 points and 5 rebounds for Gerber. Erin Davis now open up for 3 here. She hits 3 threes, and the Gorillas really rolled from the second quarter on. Tristan Gegg, floater in the lane, 13 points for Gegg, and also hits 3 threes. Now Harper Schreiner, 8 assists, and finds Grace Pyle with this one. Team high of 17 points and 11 boards for Pyle, and the Gorillas up big in the fourth. Nice ball movement here. Emma Martin to Schreiner to Savannah Campbell, and Pitt State rolls by Emporia State 82-61. They are now 7-3 in the MIAA.
Definitely we didn't come out and start as well as we wanted to, but I think, after we got that first quarter out of the way, I think we all started to settle in and move the ball really well, found some open shots, knocked them down, and, just overall performance was great tonight from everybody from top to bottom.
It means a lot to the people in the Pittsburgh community, against these tougher rival schools, and so for us to get a pretty good win against them feels really good.
Gorillas were trying to snap a 5-game losing streak to MIAA opponents. They're down early though. Albert McBride trying to give them up a spark. Layup in the transition for McBride, and then on the other side he's open for 3 and knocks it down. McBride scores 8. Now on the break, Mark English, Mr. Pittsburgh himself, gets the easy lay-in. He gets 9 points with 5 boards. But Pitt State turns it over 22 times this evening, and so the Hornets beat the Gorillas last night 79-63. Now on to high school wrestling. Tonight in southeastern Kansas, a rivalry matchup here with Frontenac hosting Pittsburgh in the Crosstown Throwdown. In the girls' duel, it's Pittsburgh winning that one 42-24. So on to the boys. Pittsburgh trying to sweep the night from Frontenac, and that's what they did. The Purple Dragons take down the Raiders 49-25. Galena High School head football coach Bo Swernsky is stepping away from coaching after 16 years leading the program. Swernsky is moving on to coaching to become a principal for the high school. And Swernsky has led one of the most consistent programs in the state over these last 16 years. The Bulldogs were 127-44 under Coach Swernsky and won 18 playoff games. He says it will be different not being on the sideline, but he's excited for the opportunity to continue to work for the kids there in Galena.
My kids have been through this school system, and you know, as they've grown up, the people care about them, and you know, the staff, the community, you know, admin, the Board of Education, you know, they're all on the same page. You know, we care about kids here, and we've always, our philosophy's been, let's do what's best for kids. And when you have that mentality, I think it's contagious and exciting. And so, you know, that's something that I've just want to kind of continue on is you know, do what's best for kids and you know, just do my small part and help each other and serve others.
And still to come this morning, if you've ever wanted to know if a bottle of wine from ancient Rome was still able to be drank, a museum in Germany just might have the answer for you. Plus, we're going to take a look at the 7-day forecast, which has some interesting twists and turns. You'll want to see all that when we return. All right, let's take a look at radar this morning. We do not have a winter weather advisory like we had yesterday morning, so this is expired now. Instead, we're just left with mostly fair skies this morning. A little bit on the chilly side, though. You can see temperatures are in the 20s, which is what we expected this morning on light northerly winds. And we're going to stay chilly for most of the afternoon. Temperatures not really rebounding all that much. In fact, we're about 10 degrees colder this morning than we were yesterday morning, even with the snow. So just kind of shows you what can happen over a 24-hour period here in the 4 states. When you factor in the wind, this is what it feels like right now, generally in the teens across the area, especially up in Iola where it's 12. 12 is what it feels like right now in Yates Center and also in Independence. A little bit warmer, if you want to call 22 degrees warmer over there in Neosho, is what it currently feels like. Currently in Joplin, we're sitting at 28 degrees, north-northwest wind at 7, so it makes it feel like 21 out there with a dew point of 22 degrees and the humidity at 78%. If you're planning your day, we're expecting mostly cloudy skies, maybe a peak of sun a little bit later today, but temperatures are going to be remaining chilly. Only about a high of 39, 36 at lunch, 36 at 5, and 33 at 8 o'clock tonight. Your future forecast looks like this. We're going to see maybe some breaks in the clouds as we head towards evening, but we're going to still see temperatures in the mid-30s, maybe even approaching 40 out towards the west. But it's going to be a chilly day. Then the clouds will kind of come and go as we go through the overnight hours into Saturday morning. We're still going to see lows in the 20s by tomorrow morning, but notice our winds are going to be coming back around out of the south, and that's a warm direction, especially by Saturday afternoon. We'll see highs in the low to mid 50s across our area under mostly cloudy skies. Then as we go into Saturday night and Sunday morning, we'll see lows generally in the upper 30s to around 40 degrees with those southerly winds continuing. Also kind of see the speed increasing a little bit too. That's going to be especially true on Sunday afternoon with breezy conditions, mostly cloudy skies with highs in the upper 50s, probably touching 60 here in Joplin, definitely 60s down in Oklahoma. Then Saturday or Sunday night into Monday morning, that's when we start to see the chance of showers coming into our picture. The best chance of that is going to be to the south and east with highs generally in the 50s and 60s on Monday. And if we take a look at the rainfall amounts, not really expecting much until Sunday night into Monday morning. And you can see generally about 1/10 of an inch, maybe a couple of tenths, especially down to the south and east. Lesser amounts off towards the north and west, which is unfortunately where the drought still is in control. The 8 to 14-day forecast temperatures across the nation looks like this. Mostly mild conditions on the East Coast. They've been mild pretty much all winter long and colder than normal for the deserts of the Southwest and the Four Corners area. We're going to kind of be in between with mild conditions. And when we look at the precipitation, we are going to be a little bit wetter on the eastern seaboard and also in the Central Plains, dry from South Texas all the way out to California, which they're going to be really loving that with all the rain and the flooding that they've had. In about 8 to 14 days, we're going to see a little bit of a flip-flop in the pattern. We're going to see a ridge on the west coast and a trough on the east, and that's why we're going to see those changes in our forecast. And that's reflected in the next 7 days. We're going to see 39 chilly degrees today, 51 tomorrow, and then on 60 on Sunday, chance of rain late Sunday into early Monday, and then as we move into Wednesday, a 40% chance of thunderstorms, kind of stormy, maybe a mix on Thursday morning with a high of only 49 degrees, and extending on out, you can see another chance of precipitation next weekend, and that looks to be a little bit more winter-like, and of course we'll have more details on that as the forecast gets a little bit closer. A pandemic trend of tech companies giving their customers what they need to make repairs at home instead of making them visit retail shops and pay technicians is now the law in one state. Eben Brown has more on that story.
Broken phone? Need a battery or a screen? What about that tablet or smartwatch? Did you buy a protection plan? Getting your tech fixed often means going to a company store like Apple's or an authorized service shop. But then came COVID, and most of those businesses, like so many others, were shuttered. But that didn't mean you were doomed to an eternally spiderweb cracked screen or unchargeable electronics. Companies began to send out or rent out tools, parts, and instructions to customers who would do it themselves, and to everyone's amazement, they learned that fixing things isn't always difficult or expensive. People liked this idea and wanted it as a post-pandemic option to get things fixed fast and cheap. And that's why New York State passed a new law aiming to guarantee a, quote, right to repair.
There are a lot of carve-outs here that make older devices, as well as some more industrial or business products, not applicable under the law. Ultimately, this is for consumers more than it is for businesses.
And it goes beyond phones and wearables. Just recently, the American Farm Bureau Federation struck a deal with John Deere, maker of agricultural equipment like tractors. Now the company will help facilitate do-it-yourself repair in exchange for the farming lobby not pursuing a right-to-repair law.
Now, even New York's right to repair law has its critics who say it doesn't do anything to stop manufacturers from requiring people to buy large quantities of replacement parts as if they are to a repair shop. Which brings us to our question, should consumers have the right to repair their own stuff? Yes or no? We want to hear from you, of course. You can go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, and you can do that on the KOAM app, Facebook, or you can scan the QR code. And we'll be right back with more Health Watch and news right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, kindness is not only good for others, it's good for you when you're feeling emotionally down. An Ohio State University study says doing acts of kindness can help you reduce depression and anxiety. The study followed more than 120 people with moderate to severe anxiety, depression, or stress. Kindness acts were those that benefited others or made them happy. The study found doing kind acts were the only interventions that resulted in more social connection. Kindness acts also took focus off of negative issues. The cancer death rate in the U.S. has dropped 33% in the past 30 years. That's according to a new report from the American Cancer Society. It cites advances in treatment, early detection, and a decrease in smoking as reasons for the lower death rate. The report says roughly 3.8 million deaths were prevented. Experts also say HPV vaccination is connected to the reduction in cancer cases and deaths. HPV, or human papillomavirus, can cause cervical and other cancers. Scientists have known for years that prolonged sitting is bad for you, but what's the best way to combat that? A new study aims to answer that question, and you don't need a standing or treadmill desk. Researchers found that just 5 minutes of light walking every half hour is enough to help reduce the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer that comes with sitting too much. If you can't get away, just standing up and sitting back down a few times can also help. Scientists say any muscle movement is better than none, and it's still not exactly understood why sitting too long increases your chance of chronic illness and early death. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Now here's Sam with the weather forecast.
Thank you very much, Kale. We are expecting cool temperatures today as the cold air has moved in. You can see that over the last 36 hours, we were in the almost approaching 60 degrees on Wednesday evening, but now we've kind of begun this slide downward. And of course, I'll have all the details in your forecast when we return.
Right now at 5:30, authorities in Oklahoma arrest a caretaker of a girl with autism who has been missing since Monday.
And radar is all clear this morning, much like big departure from yesterday with the snow. We'll have the cold forecast when we return.
Also, when it comes to children, parents face worries that something might happen to them. However, children with autism face unique risks. KOAM's Shagun Bomadelli takes us to Mosaic in Pittsburgh to learn more about these unique risks.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30 and I'm Cale Chapman.
And I'm Sam Lane, sitting in for Chris Warner this morning. And if you're heading out to school this morning, it's going to be kind of chilly with temperatures in the mid-20s, northwesterly winds at around 3 to 8 miles per hour. Then as you head home today, we're going to see temperatures still in the 30s, around 38 with partly cloudy skies. So if you're planning your day, it's going to be a chilly one out there with temperatures remaining in the 30s with mostly cloudy skies this morning, maybe a peak or sun later on this afternoon and this evening, with a high of around 39 with temperatures generally in the 30s all the way down into 8 o'clock tonight. Temperatures right now are still quite chilly, generally in the 20s across the area with northerly winds. And then this afternoon we're going to see temperatures warming into the 30s, but we're going to be about 10 to 12 degrees colder this morning than we were last morning, even though we had snow yesterday morning. And then this afternoon or this morning, we're also seeing temperatures feeling like in the teens. So you're going to need your jacket out there with those northerly winds. All right, let's take a look at Joplin right now. We're sitting at 28 degrees. It feels like 21. Northwest wind at 7, and the humidity is 78%. Your forecast this afternoon looks like it's going to be mostly cloudy with temperatures rising into the 30s, maybe even 40 down in Oklahoma and also out in western Kansas. And as we go through tonight, we're going to see partly cloudy skies with temperatures dropping back once again into the 20s, but the winds are going to turn around to the south, which is a warmer direction for us. And of course, I'll have all the details on your weekend forecast when we come back.
All right, well, thank you, Sam. The state of Oklahoma carried out its first execution of the new year. Scott James Azimber received a lethal injection last night at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester. He was pronounced dead at 10:15 p.m. Azimber was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for the 2003 killing of A.J. Cantrell, as well as a conviction of second-degree murder for the killing of Patsy Cantrell. The state's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 to reject a clemency recommendation. After the execution, several members of the Cantrell family spoke of the pain the family has endured and voiced concern at the length of time it took for Azimber to be executed. Azimber's execution was the 8th in Oklahoma since the state resumed executions in 2021. Now, authorities in Cyril, Oklahoma have arrested the caretaker of Athena Brownfield, a 4-year-old girl with autism who has been missing since Monday. Alyssa Adams was arrested on 2 complaints of child neglect. Police were notified Tuesday afternoon that Athena was missing after a postal carrier found her 5-year-old sister. The next day, several law enforcement response teams and volunteers completed a grid search of the entire town, including empty homes and local waterways. They even used search dogs and drones. That apparently provided no new information, and her whereabouts are still unknown. Most parents worry about their children around strangers and the risk of walking alone. However, children with autism may face unique risks. KOAM's Shagun Bomadelli has more.
Children with autism may face a unique risk because of their tendency to fixate on certain items or display sensory-seeking behaviors, which can leave them unaware of possible dangers around them.
Hardest things as a professional and a parent is how to teach your children to be safe and not always speak with strangers. I think that's always the first rule of thumb, is that you have to teach your children to be leery and also to be aware that it's okay to talk to people, but don't just go up and talk to strangers.
Saying hello might be good, but LaCamp warns that parents must teach children to look for trusted adults at all times.
But you know, what we can teach our children is it's okay to say hello, but then to also stop and turn around and look for parents. Definitely teach our children, do not get in a vehicle, do not go walking with that individual no matter what they say.
Some children might be nonverbal, but experts say that doesn't mean the child does not understand what is being communicated.
Just because they can't speak back to you and confirm that they get it, that doesn't mean that they understand it or don't understand it. So there are also a lot of videos and I think coloring books and lots of other different material that are not just teaching safety, but they're also fun.
KOAM gives tips on how to monitor children's whereabouts.
So in this day and age, there are so many websites that you can go to, and there are sensors for your doors, there's sensors for your gate, there's so much. There's the Ring doorbells. There are so many different devices that can trigger and go straight to your phone app and let you know, hey, your child has left the yard.
Reporting in Pittsburgh, Shagun Bamdele, KOAM News.
For more information on Mosaic and the services they offer, you can check out the link on our KOAMnewsnow.com website. Now, this morning we're discussing the right to repair.
I've done that several times.
Oh,
Repaired
yeah?
my dryer, yep. When the heating element goes out, it's one of those things that you can easily replace. You order the part on Amazon, comes to your house, fixed it right up, no problem.
Hey, that's
saved me some money.
Heck yeah.
But getting your tech fixed often means going to an official company store or to an authorized service shop. However, COVID came along and these businesses had to close, but that didn't mean consumers were stuck with their broken screen. Companies began to send out or rent out tools, parts, and instructions to customers who began to repair their devices themselves.
Customers like this so much that states are even starting to put it in law. This goes beyond phones and wearables. It also applies to a deal recently made between farmers and John Deere, where the company will help facilitate do-it-yourself repair in exchange for them not pursuing a right to repair law.
Which brings us to our question this morning: should consumers have the right to repair their own things? And of course, you can vote, and you can see right now, well, 100% say yes. I think this is going to be lopsided.
Yeah,
I think
it might
going to say that's right. But of course, you can go vote on our KOAMnewsnow.com
Yeah, we'd love
website.
to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. Throw your voice in there. And like I said, I've repaired stuff myself. I didn't know there was a law against it or something like that. But
well, hey,
fixing a tractor, that's beyond me even.
Well, that one's beyond me too. A lot of that's beyond me. But let's look at our top news stories. Coming up on this next half hour of the KOAM Morning News, a small bookstore goes viral all thanks to a tweet.
And plus, a funny mishap at a shop in Brazil goes viral. We'll have the latest.
Topping World Watch today, in Canada, at least 3 people are missing following an explosion at a fuel distribution company in Quebec City. The explosion happened around 11 a.m. Thursday at the family-run company Propane La Fortune. Right now, it's unclear what caused the blast, but experts are investigating the possibility that a truck inside the facility's garage exploded. So far, no deaths have been confirmed. The company issued a statement saying it is cooperating with authorities and that this is the first time in 60 years that an ordeal like this has happened. Officials say the search will continue overnight, but could be complicated by heavy snow. Panama has sent more than 55 tons of seized cocaine to the United States to be destroyed. It's part of an agreement to avoid contamination by open burning because Panama does not have a drug incinerator. This is the second shipment that the Panamanian government sent to the United States after the last one made in August of last year. The Japanese government has announced that it will be releasing treated water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea. This is expected to happen around, quote, this spring or summer, following an investigation by the Nuclear Regulation Authority. The decision to release the water was made during a cabinet meeting on Friday. It should be noted that the government had decided in April of 2021 to release the water into the sea by 2023. That's after it's diluted to a concentration below the national standard. Preventing the release of radioactive water has been a top priority for both the plant and the government ever since a reactor meltdown which was triggered by a tsunami in 2011. An American Navy veteran detained in Russia since April is now free. That's according to a spokesperson for Taylor Dudley's family. Last year, the 35-year-old from Michigan was in Poland for a music festival when he crossed into a territory Russia governs. The U.S. government did not deem Dudley's detention wrongful, and his family did not publicize their efforts to secure his release. Romanian investigators can keep Andrew Tate's fleet of luxury cars and properties that have been seized in the ongoing investigation into the social media influencer. The former kickboxer is charged with human trafficking and forming an organized crime group. Romanian police allege the group forced victims into creating paid pornography for social media. Tate had challenged the seizures back in April, but a court decided it was legal and the goods remain at their disposal. If prosecutors can prove that Tate's gained money through human trafficking, officials say that the assets can be used to cover the expenses of the investigation and damages to victims. Tate's lawyers are complaining the asset seizures are disproportional to the charges. Sweden says it's found rare earth elements in the northern part of the country. Sweden's iron ore mine, LKAB, says the, quote, significant deposits were found in Lapland. The elements are essential for the manufacturing of electric vehicles, wind turbines, and smartphones. It's said to be the largest known deposit of its kind in Europe. Is a bottle of wine from ancient Rome still drinkable? Well, museum officials say maybe. The Speyer wine bottle at the Historical Museum of Palanit in Germany is believed to be the oldest bottle of wine in the world, dating back to the 4th century. A solidified blob of oil and wax on top of the bottle have kept the wine sealed throughout history. While most of the contents appear to be solid, museum officials say there is still a sip or two of liquid that is likely not spoiled. The museum says that the taste might resemble, quote, tasteless chewing gum. And a funny mishap at a shop in Brazil was caught on video. It's now gone viral on social media. The video shows a man closing up shop. He places a big heavy lock bar under the door and then turns away. The lock bar falls right on an older man's foot. That's actually the man's father-in-law. After checking to make sure his father-in-law is okay, the man tries to put the lock bar up again. After this second time, he walks away, only for the lock bar to fall once again. And this second time, it hits the poor guy right on the head. Here it goes. Bonk. After checking to make sure his father-in-law is okay a second time, the older man is doing just fine, and he only had a few bruises from his injuries. The London Zoo introduces its first newborn of 2023. It's a two-toed baby sloth born on New Year's Day. The teeny sloth is seen clinging to its mom's belly at their zoo enclosure. The sex has not been determined, but zookeepers nicknamed the baby Nova, which means new in Latin, saying they couldn't have asked for a better start to the new year. The zoo sloth keeper says sloth babies usually cling to their mothers until they're at least 1 year old in order to develop their muscles so they can swing from tree to tree. That's a big look at some of our biggest headlines from around the world. And here's Sam with another look at the forecast.
All right, thank you very much. And we are looking at mostly fair skies this morning. A little bit chilly out there, including Seneca, Missouri at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Dry pavement this morning, unlike yesterday morning with the snow. In fact, radar is clear this morning all across the region, and it's going to stay that way through most of the afternoon. We can see temperatures right now quite chilly, generally in the 20s, even some teens showing up. Independence checking in with 18 right now. 26 in Nevada, 28 in Carthage, 29 in Neosho. And when you factor in the wind, it feels a little bit colder out there. We're generally around 10 degrees colder this morning than we were last morning. So looks like it's going to be a pretty chilly morning if you're heading out. In fact, it's feeling like 8 degrees right now in Independence, 14 in Fort Scott, 18 in Stockton, 22 over there in Carthage. Right now in Joplin, we're sitting at 28 degrees. It feels like 21 because of that northwest wind at 7. This afternoon, we're going to see mostly fair skies by evening with temperatures in the upper 30s, but still a pretty chilly day across the area. Then as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning, we're going to see temperatures dropping down once again into the 20s. And then Saturday afternoon, temperatures in the upper 40s to around 50 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Then the clouds will still be with us on Sunday morning with lows in the upper 30s to around 40. Then Sunday afternoon, temperatures rebounding into the mid to upper 50s across our area, approaching 60. Then Saturday night into Sunday, that's when we're going to see the chance of rain start to move into our area. And looking at the next 7 days, we're going to see a chance of rain on Monday morning and then a better chance of storms on Wednesday and then maybe mixing over on Thursday morning. We'll have more news and weather when we return.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The state of Oklahoma carried out its first execution of the new year. Scott James Azimber received a lethal injection last night at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. He was pronounced dead at 10:15 p.m. Azimber was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for the 2003 killing of A.J. Cantrell, as well as a conviction of second-degree murder for the killing of Patsy Cantrell. The state's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 to reject a clemency recommendation. After the execution, several members of the Cantrell family spoke of the pain the family has endured and voiced concern at the length of time it took for Azimber to be executed. Azimber's execution was the 8th in Oklahoma since the state resumed executions in 2021. Authorities in Cyril, Oklahoma have arrested the caretaker of Athena Brownfield, a 4-year-old girl with autism who's been missing since Monday. Alyssa Adams was arrested on 2 complaints of child neglect. Police were notified Tuesday afternoon that Athena was missing after a postal carrier found her 5-year-old sister. The next day, several law enforcement response teams and volunteers completed a grid search of the entire town, including empty homes and local waterways. They even used search dogs and drones. That apparently provided no new information, and her whereabouts are still unknown. When it comes to children, parents have safety concerns around strangers and the risk of walking alone out in the community. However, children with autism may face unique risks. And on Thursday, a Fayetteville, Arkansas couple made a precious donation to Freeman Health System. Michelle and Dusty Hurst donated a cuddle cot, a small portable chamber that stays cool to allow families dealing with the loss of a newborn child to spend time with their baby at home. The Hursts made the donation after losing 2 newborns themselves. And that's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. We'll be right back after this break. The power of social media. One small bookstore's response to a massive return goes viral. Anthony Ponce has more on this incredible story.
We were excited. Somebody came in and bought a bunch of our art books, really expensive, nice books.
$800 worth right before the holidays, which for a neighborhood bookshop like Volumes Book Cafe meant a lot.
My sister remarked wow, you wouldn't believe this person came in and bought all these books. And we were like, wow, cool.
But that happiness was short-lived. Earlier this week, the customer brought them all back to return, explaining that they used the books for temporary props. That prompted owner Rebecca George to vent on Twitter, where on Monday she posted, "Turns out one of our biggest sales last month was for the person to stage their home for the holidays, and now they want to return them all. Please don't do this to a small business, people. That one sale was 1/3 of our rent."
Just venting, yeah. And then I don't know who picked it up, but it went actually pretty fast.
Very fast. In fact, in just 2 days, it's been seen 6.5 million times and counting. And as a result, book orders to the neighborhood shop have been pouring in.
All of them have been leaving notes, beautiful little notes with their purchase of, saying I support you, I think you're great, or keep going and, screw mean people.
The owner says the profit margins on their sales are so slim that it's difficult, if not impossible, to compete with giants like Walmart and Amazon. All the more reason, she says, to not pull a maneuver like this particular customer.
Your decisions have a bigger effect with small business than they do elsewhere.
She says the unlikely situation is a reminder to skip Amazon for a change, pay a winter visit to your nearest bookstore, and consider keeping whatever you buy. A 9-year-old girl was fossil hunting with her family in Maryland when she made an impressive find, this massive prehistoric shark tooth. Molly Sampson discovered the megalodon tooth in the water at Calvert Cliff State Park. The 15-million-year-old tooth is 5 inches long, the size of Molly's hand. Experts say it likely belonged to a shark that was nearly 50 feet long, almost the size of a semi-truck trailer. Molly's been looking for a meg tooth like this for a while. She wants to be a paleontologist and knows all about megalodon sharks, which became extinct millions of years ago. Now, Molly says she will add the priceless find to her collection of more than 400 shark teeth. NASA's newest space observatory has made a new and exciting discovery. The agency says this is an illustration of LHS 475b, an exoplanet that the James Webb Space Telescope for the first time confirmed exists. An exoplanet is just a planet that sits outside our solar system. The rocky world is almost the same size as Earth, but is a few hundred degrees warmer. It orbits around a red dwarf host star, taking about 2 Earth days to complete the trip. NASA says Webb discovered the planet is closer to its star than Earth is to the Sun, but its star is less than half the temperature of our own Sun. Scientists say that this means it is possible that the exoplanet could still have an atmosphere to explore.
All right, well, we have an atmosphere on our planet, and it's pretty cold this morning. Mostly fair with nothing on radar this morning. And over the last 36 hours, we've been on a downward trend as far as our temperatures go, all the way down into the 20s this morning. And of course, we'll have more details in our forecast as well as the 7-day when we return.
Right now at 6, Oklahoma carries out its first execution of the year for a man convicted for a pair of murders in 2002.
And radar is all clear this morning. Is it going to stay that way for the weekend? I have the answer.
Also, committees in Kansas sat down to discuss ongoing water issues in the Sunflower State, such as invasive species and concerns about the dam in Coffeyville.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. and I'm Cale Chapman.
And I'm meteorologist Sam Lane, sitting in for Chris Warmer. We have a cold morning shaping up across the area right now. As I mentioned, radar is all clear and temperatures are quite cold, generally in the 20s across the area. In fact, it's down to 18 right now in Independence, 20 in Sedan for some of the coldest readings. A little bit warmer down to the south in Bella Vista, where it's currently 26, 29 in Monette with northerly winds. In fact, we're about 5 to 10 degrees colder this morning than we were last morning, and a little bit colder down in northwest Arkansas, where they're about 13 degrees colder this morning than they were yesterday. And when you factor in the wind, this is what it feels like right now. 9 is what it feels like in Independence, 19 in Pittsburgh, 19 in Lamar, 14 in Fort Scott, a little bit warmer if you want to call 20 warmer down in Cassville. And our forecast for this morning, if you're sending the kids out to school, we're expecting 25 degrees, teens in some places, but 25 with northwesterly winds. And then as we head through the afternoon, as they come home, we're going to see temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, around 38 degrees with partly cloudy skies. And if we take a look at your planning your day, we're expecting mostly cloudy skies this morning with temperatures staying chilly for most of the day. Only upper 30s for highs, and that includes lunchtime with 36, same thing at 5, and then 33 degrees at 8 o'clock. And I'll be back in a minute to tell you all about the 7-day forecast, which includes some changes, and you'll want to hear all about that. Cale?
Thank you, Sam. The state of Oklahoma carries out its first execution of the new year. Scott James Zimber received a lethal injection last night at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. He was pronounced dead at 10:15 p.m. Zimber was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for the 2003 killing of A.J. Cantrell, as well as a conviction of second-degree murder for the killing of Patsy Cantrell. The state's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 to reject a clemency recommendation. After the execution, several members of the Cantrell family spoke of the pain the family has endured and voiced concern at the length of time it took for Zimber to be executed. Zimber's execution was the 8th in Oklahoma since the state resumed executions in 2021. Missouri American Water gets ready to invest more than $425 million to upgrade water and wastewater systems this year. Joplin will see some of the upgrades with constructions of new high-service pump station and upgrades to chemical feed equipment. Additionally, about 80 miles of pipe will be replaced in operations throughout the state. On Thursday, a couple of committees met to discuss water issues affecting Kansas and the region. Officers from the 14 regions of Kansas gathered in Parsons to discuss issues such as harmful algal blooms, sedimentation, and aquatic nuisance species such as zebra mussels. Another topic was concerns about the dam in Coffeyville, Kansas.
That affects all of us that use fuel, and so that's how it spreads the impact to everyone. So if they're not able to pull enough water, or if the river flow is low enough that their intake pumps are not functioning properly, then they can become damaged.
The committees also discussed the impact of the drought. The committee will meet again next quarter. Another problem for Kansas water is water levels. Kansas's leading scientists are using the words water crisis to describe the falling levels of water in the state, and as Pilar Pedraza reports, this problem affects all Kansans.
It's a problem that's quietly crept up on Kansans over the last 70 years or so. Water disappearing from sources once seen as bottomless. But now,
it's pretty clear that it's just been getting drier and drier and drier.
And while many farmers and ranchers like Brian Alexander have come up with ways to preserve water sources on their property, it's a problem bigger than any one landowner.
The water is owned equally by everybody in the state of Kansas in my books.
2 years ago, the Speaker of the House formed a special water committee. It's held hearings, but the one bill to come out of it last year died. That's led to some frustrations among worried lawmakers.
A lot of it has just kind of been your classic lobbying forces. There's a lot of forces out there who benefit from the short-term use of Kansas water, who might not care that much about the long-term use of Kansas water.
Senator Dan Kirshen chaired a special joint House and Senate committee over the summer, but says he's not sure what to expect this year.
We want to make sure we do it right and help everybody benefits from it by saving water.
Perhaps the biggest stumbling block they all face is the balancing act between personal property rights and the right of every Kansan to fresh water.
This is going to be a community solution, unfortunately, for a problem that's been primarily caused from one corporate industry.
The one thing that all Kansas lawmakers can agree upon is that something needs to be done, and soon. Well, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly turns out did not have COVID. According to a release from her office, Kelly originally tested positive for COVID on Tuesday after experiencing cold-like symptoms. They said follow-up tests have all come back negative. The governor's doctor and experts at the State Department of Health and Environment determined that the original test was a false positive. Her office says the governor will return to working in person today. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, you may not know their names, but they keep order in the House of Representatives. We're taking a closer look at the House clerk and her team and what it takes to fill the sometimes daunting job. Plus, scientists say they have developed an AI that can accurately predict the risk of a patient developing lung cancer within 6 years. And meteorologist Sam Lane returns with another look at your weekend forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, some would say the king and his princess are together again in rock and roll heaven. Lisa Marie Presley, the only daughter of the legendary Elvis Presley, died Thursday after she was rushed to the hospital after suffering cardiac arrest. The cause of death is yet to be confirmed. Her mother, Priscilla Presley, issued a statement saying that she and her family are, quote, shocked and devastated and are asking for privacy at this time. Lisa Marie was 9 years old when the king died in 1977, but Lisa Marie later followed in her father's footsteps and released her own debut album called To Whom It May Concern in 2003. Presley released 2 more records in 2005 and 2012. Lisa Marie Presley was 54 years old. If you've been watching the House of Representatives try and fail to elect a new speaker, you've probably seen a lot of House Clerk Cheryl Johnson. Johnson and her team have led the House through this tumultuous time while no one else was in charge. Ed O'Keefe spoke to those who both know the job and the woman who's making history.
The House will be in order.
You've seen them in action this week. Front and center, 3 women taking control of the House chamber and keeping members in line.
The clerk would ask all members-elect to abide by the established decorum
as the House tries and tries to elect a new speaker.
A speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected.
It's the first time in 100 years the House has struggled to elect a speaker, and until it does, there are no rules. That means the House clerk, appointed by the previous speaker, stays on and is in charge.
Congratulations.
Cheryl Johnson has had the job since 2019, when then House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said this about the role.
Without the clerk, Congress could not fulfill its obligation to the American people.
She's the 36th House clerk, the 4th woman and the 2nd black woman in the role. And she's been on the job over the course of 2 impeachments, the January 6th insurrection, and now this.
She can certainly handle that gavel.
Former Missouri Congressman William Lacey Clay has known Johnson for more than 4 decades and spoke to her Wednesday.
She gave me all of the confidence in the world that she was up for the task.
An equally tricky job is being handled by Susan Cole and Tylese Ali. They're reading clerks whose role ranges from the mundane
Reschenthaler, McCarthy,
to the historic.
that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached.
It's a job Paul Hayes held for nearly 2 decades.
You really had to have a strong, loud voice.
Hayes says given how often they're on TV, clerks do gain some notoriety. The only time he ever rehearsed his lines was during the impeachment of Bill Clinton.
That William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States, is impeached.
I knew there would be a lot of people watching that, and I didn't want to trip over any of the legal terms.
And that's a dynamic that Clay says Johnson, as current head of the House until someone fills that chair, now knows about.
She certainly does, but to us, she's still Cheryl Johnson, that little girl that came to Washington, D.C. from Louisiana and has made quite a name for herself.
While Cheryl Johnson may be House Clerk right now, her time may almost be up. Every time a new speaker is elected, they get to select who's the next House Clerk. If you want to be a reading clerk, you must be able to name all 435 elected members of the House by first and last name and home state on site. How do they do it? Well, they practice with picture flashcards. Now that's a look at one of today's top national stories. Here's meteorologist Sam Lane with a look at our forecast.
All right, thank you very much, Cale. Yeah, we're going to be going through some changes as we go into the forecast. For the longest time, we've been dealing with the trough on the west coast and a kind of a ridge or flattened pattern across the rest of the country. That's the reason why California's had so much rainfall. But we're going to be seeing a change. We're going to see a ridge starting to build on the west coast and a trough on the east coast. And that means we're going to be seeing some changes in our forecast. If we take a look, right now we're under a trough with this big trough going from northwest to southeast with the wind flow, bringing the colder air from the north. But as we go through time, we're going to start to see the mild air start to make its way back into our area, especially as we head over the weekend. And then the trough is going to make a move off into the Atlantic coast, and we're going to see mild air starting to take over the south central plains on Sunday. And then we have a storm system that will move out into the plains late Sunday night into early Monday. That's when we're going to see the rain start to break out. But then as that system moves away, we'll start to get a little bit of colder air behind it. But then we're going to go into a little bit of a zonal pattern where the winds are basically blowing from west to east across the area, and a trough will set back up again on the west coast. So over the next 7 days, this is the way it's looking. Today, chilly, 39, and then Saturday, 51, and then Sunday, 60 degrees. And then as we move into Monday, a few scattered showers with a high of 64. Better chance of storms on Wednesday. And then as we go into Thursday morning, we could see a little bit of a morning mix like we had yesterday morning with a high of 49 after a start of 35 degrees. And of course, we'll have more weather and news when we come back. Welcome back on this Friday the 13th. We have mostly fair skies this morning, including down in Seneca, Missouri at the Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Nothing really going on down there this morning or anywhere across the 4 states. As you can see on radar, it's pretty much all clear this morning. Not the case 24 hours ago with the snow, but that quickly melted off. Temperatures, though, are still quite chilly, generally in the 20s, even a few teens showing up like Independence with 18 right now, 22 in Neodesha, 26 in Chanute. A little bit warmer down to the south in Anderson, where they're currently sitting at 28 degrees, also 28 in Cassville, and 29 degrees for the warm spot over in Monette. But even at that, we're about 10 degrees colder this morning than we were last morning, and a little bit warmer out towards the west, where they're only about 5 or 6 degrees warmer or colder this morning than they were 24 hours ago. When you factor in the wind, this is what it feels like. It feels like it's in the teens out there, so you definitely need to bundle up. Even single digits in Independence, where it feels like 9, 13 in Neodesha, 16 in Iola, 14 degrees is what it feels like right now up in Fort Scott. Here in Joplin, we're sitting at 27 under mostly cloudy skies, north-northwest winds at 9. So as a result, we have a wind chill of 18. Dew point is 21. The pressure is rising on the hour. Future forecast this afternoon, we're going to see some clouds and some sun, but it's going to be chilly. Temperatures in the 30s, perhaps even 40 out towards the west and south down into Oklahoma. but northerly winds across the entire area. Then as we go through the evening hours, some clouds coming by. Generally, temperatures are going to drop down once again into the 20s by Saturday morning. And then as we head through Saturday afternoon, mostly cloudy skies with temperatures warming into the 50s across the area. Then Saturday night into Sunday morning, lows not as chilly, generally in the upper 30s to around 40 with south winds. And those south winds are really going to get cranking on Sunday with highs in the upper 50s to around 60 degrees across the entire area. Then Sunday night into Monday, that's when the next chance of showers starts to come into our picture with strong south winds on Monday morning. Rainfall amounts are not going to be all that impressive. Generally higher amounts down to the south and east, lighter amounts off towards the north and west. We're going to see a pattern change as we head through the next 8 to 14 days with warm on the west, on the east coast, cold on the west coast, wet on the east coast, and dry on the west coast. So it's kind of a reversal of what we've been seeing across the area. Over the next 7 days, we're going to see some changes in our forecast. Showers on Monday, better chance of storms on Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, a new CDC report finds childhood vaccination rates, while still high, are declining. The nationwide coverage of recommended vaccines to protect against illnesses including measles, polio, and chickenpox dropped 2 percentage points among kindergarten children over the last 2 years. Federal researchers say that translates to roughly 250,000 children potentially not being protected. A new study finds more than 1/4 of U.S. adults aged 71 and older had impaired vision in 2021. That's higher than previous estimates. Researchers from the University of Michigan say aging and lower income are some of the factors linked to a higher prevalence of vision issues. And scientists at Massachusetts General Hospital say they've developed an artificial intelligence tool that can accurately predict the risk of a patient developing lung cancer within 6 years. Researchers say the AI tool, known as Sybil, can evaluate a low-dose CT scan and detect patterns not visible to the human eye. A new report shows that deaths from cancer have dropped dramatically in the last 3 decades, but cases of advanced stage prostate cancer and deaths are on the rise. Reporter Bradley Blackburn has more.
Jerry Jackson is a 69-year-old grandfather who says he owes the last decade of his life to a simple blood test.
If I hadn't had that, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you.
In 2013, after his PSA test came back elevated, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer and needed radiation therapy.
How are you doing today?
100%.
Prostate cancer is highly curable if detected early, but a new report from the American Cancer Society shows since 2011, cases of advanced stage prostate cancer have increased 4 to 5% every year. More men are dying from the disease, even as cancer deaths overall have dropped 33% over the last 3 decades.
More than 290,000 individuals will hear that they have prostate cancer this year.
CEO Dr. Karen Knudsen says confusion over cancer screening may be one reason cancers are being diagnosed later, after a shift in some guidelines years ago.
Would encourage individuals to have an informed decision with their physician about prostate cancer testing. But PSA is a blood test that can give an indication of whether someone may be developing or has developed prostate cancer, alongside a physical exam. This itself has no inherent harm to the individual.
The group recommends men talk to their doctors about their risk and start testing at age 50. But for some, testing may need to begin earlier. Black men have higher rates and are more likely to die from prostate cancer compared to white men.
It's been positive. Talking to, especially in the African American community, about different health issues. The one I know about is prostate cancer.
Conversations that can save lives. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Another finding in the report, there was a 65% reduction in cervical cancer rates in women in their early 20s, which comes in the wake of the introduction of the HPV vaccine, which protects against virus strains that cause cervical cancer. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
All right, and thank you very much, Cale. It's a beautiful morning out there if you like the cold air. I actually kind of liked the snow yesterday, made everything really nice and pretty, but no snow on radar this morning. It's all clear across our area, and temperatures are dropping into the 20s. 27 right now in Joplin, northwest wind at 9. Makes it feel like 18 out there, so bundle up. with a dew point of 21, and the pressure is currently rising. This afternoon, we're going to see temperatures rising into the upper 30s, maybe 40 down in Oklahoma, like in Afton and Grove, and upper 30s out towards the west as well with northerly winds. Then tonight, we're going to see temperatures dropping once again into the 20s, but our winds are going to turn around from the north to the south, and that's going to be a warmer direction for us, especially as we head into Saturday afternoon, with mostly cloudy skies with temperatures around 50, maybe mid-50s, especially down towards the south. Then Saturday night into Sunday, that's when we have the chance of showers start to move back into our picture. As we move into Sunday morning, we're going to see lows in the 30s, and then Sunday afternoon, highs in the upper 50s to around 60. And then Sunday night into Monday, that's when the chance of showers starts to come back into our forecast. Rainfall amounts are not expected to be all that great. Generally, the higher amounts are going to be down to the south and east, around a tenth or two, lesser amounts towards the north and west. Over the next 7 days, we're going to see the chance of showers on Monday morning, and then a better chance of showers and storms on Wednesday, and then maybe a mix over on Thursday morning like we had yesterday morning on Thursday. We'll have more news and weather when we return.
Right now at 6:30, Oklahoma carries out its first execution of the year for a man convicted of a pair of murders in 2002.
And this morning, we don't have any snow on radar. Instead, it's all clear, but we do have some cold temperatures. I'll have the forecast.
Also, committees in Kansas sat down to discuss ongoing water issues in the Sunflower State, such as invasive species and concerns about the dam in Coffeyville.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30 and I'm Cale Chapman.
And I'm meteorologist Sam Lane, sitting in for the Chris Warner this morning. As I mentioned, no snow this morning. Instead, it's all clear on radar, but we do have the cold air in place. In fact, over the last 36 hours, we were looking at temperatures close to 60 degrees 36 hours ago, but notice we've been on this downward slide ever since then to where now we're seeing temperatures in the mid-20s this morning. If you're sending out the kids to the bus stop, well, they're going to bundle up. They're going to need to bundle up with temperatures in the mid-20s with mostly cloudy skies and northwesterly winds, making it feel like it's in the teens. Then as they come home, they could maybe get by with a light jacket with a temperature of 38 degrees with partly cloudy skies and northwesterly winds. And if you're planning your day, we're expecting temperatures to be chilly today, only in the upper 30s for highs, and then around lunchtime 36 degrees, 36 by 5 o'clock with partly cloudy skies, and starting to get cold again as we head towards the evening with a temperature of 33 degrees by 8 o'clock. We'll look down the lane. Well, we're going to have a chilly Friday, but we do have a warmer weekend ahead with some Monday showers and maybe some thunderstorms on Wednesday, and I'll have all the details on that coming up in just a bit.
Well, thank you, Sam. The state of Oklahoma carried out its first execution of the new year. Scott James Zimber received a lethal injection last night at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. He was pronounced dead at 10:15 p.m. Zimber was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for the 2003 killing of A.J. Cantrell, as well as a conviction of second-degree murder for the killing of Patsy Cantrell. The state's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 to reject a clemency recommendation. After the execution, several members of the Cantrell family spoke of the pain the family had endured and voiced concern at the length of time it took for Zimber to be executed. Zimber's execution was the 8th in Oklahoma since the state resumed executions in 2021. Authorities in Cyril, Oklahoma have arrested the caretaker of Athena Brownfield, a 4-year-old girl with autism who has been missing since Monday. Alyssa Adams was arrested on 2 complaints of child neglect. Police were notified Tuesday morning that Athena was missing after a postal carrier found her 5-year-old sister. The next day, several law enforcement response teams and volunteers completed a grid search of the entire town, including empty homes and waterways. They even used search dogs and drones. Unfortunately, that provided no new information, and her whereabouts are still unknown. When it comes to children, parents have safety concerns around strangers and the risk of walking alone in the community. However, children with autism may face unique risks.
Hardest things as a professional and a parent is how to teach your children to be safe and not always speak with strangers. I think that's always the first rule of thumb, is that you have to teach your children to be leery and also to be aware that it's okay to talk to people, but don't just go up and talk to strangers.
For more information on Mosaic and the services they offer, you can check out their link on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Missouri American Water is set to invest more than $425 million to upgrade water and wastewater systems this year. Joplin will see some of the upgrades with constructions of a high-service pump station and upgrades to chemical feed equipment. Additionally, about 80 miles of pipe will be replaced in operations throughout the state. Water challenges in southeast Kansas were a topic of discussion in Parsons on Thursday. KOAM's Carrie Worthen learned more about some of the problems and how water experts hope to address them.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
The Neosho and Verdigris Regional Advisory Committees had a joint meeting at the Parsons, Kansas Library. This meeting is the first meeting of the new year and discussed issues affecting the region and state. There are 14 region officers.
The regional advisory committees are our grassroots stakeholders that get together, talk about issues, water issues happening in their regions, and then they have the opportunity to offer recommendations.
Some issues such as harmful algae blooms, sedimentation, and aquatic nuisance species, such as zebra mussels, are just a few topics that were discussed. Wes Fleming is the RAC chair and said issues caused by blue-green algae in the watershed can run through to our area.
Issues, they trickle down, so if there's a blue-green algae issue going on up in Marion, then that's a result of too many nutrients. Well, that water moves on down to Redmond and then on down here. So
all recommended issues will be taken to the next Kansas Water Authority meeting, and funding for the projects will also be discussed.
We'll get back together probably in April or maybe even earlier than that to have our discussion on what line items within the state water plan funding that we want to try to suggest that they have an increased funding level.
In Parsons, Carrie Worthen, KOAM News.
The committee will meet with legislators in Topeka, Kansas later this month. And this morning we are discussing the right to repair.
Right. Getting your tech fix often means going to a professional. However, COVID of course came along and shut down many of those businesses. Now this doesn't mean that consumers were stuck with a broken screen or broken electronics. Companies just simply began sending out or renting out tools, parts, and instructions to help customers so that they could repair their own devices.
And customers like that so much that states are even starting to enact new laws. This goes beyond just phones and wearables. It also applies to a deal recently made between farmers and John Deere. The company says that they will help facilitate do-it-yourself repair in exchange for farmers not to pursue a right to repair law.
Which brings us to our question this morning: should consumers have the right to repair? And you can see
we're sticking with 100. It's been there all morning.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer, I think. Everyone is agreeing that you should have the right to repair your own stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree with that too.
I do too. I've done it myself and I hope to do so. Because, any way you can do to save yourself some money,
exactly.
Because like an ice maker, it's going to cost $100 just to have some guy come out and take a look at it. So anything you can do to help save money, or at least that's what I feel.
For sure. I agree. Well, that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. It's Friday, and you know what that means.
That's right.
We've got Shannon Becker live in the studio to bring us the 3 big stories of the week. What do you think they are?
Plus, we're going to have a look at the forecast, which includes some changes, so you'll want to stick around for that.
Well, welcome back. It's time to close out our week with our own Shannon Becker and his big 3 stories. Welcome back, Shannon.
Hey, sir.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my gosh. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, right?
Depends on who you ask.
That's true. All right, let's take a look at the big 3 live and breaking stories of the week that we covered out there in the streets in the area. It was last Sunday night. I thought I was going to bed, but nope. It was an armed robbery at Casey's at Stone's Corner on North Main Street. A black male, pictured here, entered the store with a handgun. There were about 6 people in the store actually at the time. What a scary thing, right?
Yeah.
Fled the store on foot after demanding cash. And you could see the officers there searching the area there just south near the El Charro. They believe that he got into a vehicle and then fled towards Webb City, which then 45 minutes later there was an armed robbery at a truck stop in Lamar. The time pattern kind of fits. You can read more on our news tab at KOAMNewsNow.com. Number 2, Joplin News First live and breaking news. $2,000 if you know this guy. Everybody's been talking about it. He's wanted on felony DWI warrants. Jeffrey Allen Ramsey. They're looking for him for appearances in court in Jasper County. So if you know where he is, you might make some money there. Our number one story, Joplin News First. It was a very, very touching story this last Friday. A canine Hondo he's originally Lamar, Barton County area, served for about 9 years and retired back in June of 2021. Larger dogs like this, they tend to have a lot of health problems, and so he was scheduled. They had to make the bad family decision, to put him down. Yeah. But all area canines, there's like a brotherhood of all the canine officers. So they came from Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri, and they escorted the officer and the canine to Carthage. It was really, really touching, really, really moving moment. That's our number one story. And then our bonus of the week, I really enjoy this. You see it every now and then. This is in Bates County, just north of Nevada.
Gotcha.
This drug house is now closed to the public. Would you like that in your yard or your neighbor's yard?
I don't think I'd like that anywhere near my house.
Yeah, perhaps it might work. Well, Bates County on Tuesday, they had a drug bust, and this is now part of their policy. It's the Missouri state statutes say that it's defined, you cannot manufacture, distribute, storage, or sell any amount of controlled substances. So he's like, well, that's why we placed the sign to let everybody know it's a public notice. So this drug house where they were selling a bunch of dope, now closed. Huh. So if you live in Bates County, watch out. You could get that in your neighbor's yard. And you might like that, kind of a good way to eliminate it.
Well, sure, yeah. It's a good way to eliminate, people have got their eyes out there.
Yeah. So now that happens after a search warrant is executed by their SWAT team. So that's our big three of the week. Joplin News First, live and breaking news.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, thank you, Shannon.
All right.
Great 3 stories to pick from this week and a good bonus one as well.
All right, we'll be back next hour.
Yes, yeah, we will.
If you'll have me.
Next hour.
All right.
You're welcome back.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll be back with birthdays and anniversaries right after this break. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Tech Sergeant Dalton Paxton. The Iola, Kansas native served in Japan as part of the 871st Airborne Aviation Battalion. To Tech Sergeant Dalton Paxton, we thank you, our 4-state hero. And we got birthdays. Happy birthday to Remy Barnes from Weir, Kansas. Happy belated birthday, Remy.
And we have Gracie Trensu, 11 years old, Valita, Kansas. Mom and Dad say love you and happy birthday.
Eli Swink Pritchett is turning 13. He's from Uniontown, Kansas. Happy birthday.
And we have Jace Workman, 14 years old, from Arma, Kansas, celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday, Jace.
Andrew Rowe from Pittsburgh, Kansas is celebrating his 16th birthday. Happy birthday from Mom and Dad.
Brooke Rush, 17 years old, in Jasper, Missouri. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Nate Slonker from Columbus, Kansas.
Aspen Elbert, 26 years old. I like that name, Aspen. Reminds me of Colorado. Seneca, Missouri. Happy birthday from Mom, Dad, Tyler, Liv, Ava, Amory, and Nanny.
And happy 38th birthday to Jeff Cleland from Arma, Kansas.
Stephanie Loving of Iola, Kansas is celebrating a belated 52nd birthday today. Happy birthday, Stephanie.
And happy birthday to Joni Cooper, who's turning 53 in Carthage, Missouri.
And Nancy Jensen, Pittsburgh, Kansas, 62 today. Happy birthday, Nancy.
Happy birthday to Peggy Keeling from Neosho, Missouri.
Larry Bunce in Baxter Springs, which is, I believe that's for, what are they called? Brother and sister fraternal?
I think that's fraternal.
I don't remember, but Laurie Anderson, they're both celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday to you both.
Ron Schultz is turning 75 in Columbus, Kansas. He's a resident at Grand Villas in Columbus. Happy birthday.
And Hazel McGrew from Crestline, Kansas. Happy birthday from the Crestline Girls.
And Janet Wixon, also from Crestline, Kansas, is turning 86. Happy birthday to you, Janet, from the Crestline Girls.
And Natalie Nelson from Columbus, Kansas is celebrating a birthday.
Heather Shaw is celebrating a birthday as well. She's from Webb City, Missouri.
And happy anniversary to Wayne and Jamie Crandall, their 27th wedding anniversary. Congratulations and happy anniversary to you both.
And Cindy Ivy, happy 60th birthday in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
And don't forget, you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by simply going to our website and signing up. And of course, you can do that at KOAMnewsnow.com. You can get special deals from local businesses, so go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club, and be sure to do that today. All right, pretty good deal. We also have a pretty good deal for all those celebrating birthdays today, and mostly fair skies this morning, including Seneca, Missouri with Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. And not a whole lot going on down there this morning. Unlike yesterday morning, we had some snow flurries down in that area, dusting of snow across a large part of the area. Radar is clear right now, and it's going to stay that way for most of the weekend until we get late Sunday into early Monday. That's when the rain is going to start to move back into our area. But temperatures this morning are downright chilly. In fact, cold. 24 in Yates Center, 23 in Neodesha, 21 in Independence. Cold spot, Sedan with 20 right now. 27 over in Stockton, Carthage, Monette, and 28 in Neosho, as well as Anderson for some of the warmer readings across our area. And we're about 5 to 10 degrees colder this morning than we were yesterday morning at this time. So we're on the cold end this morning. And when you factor in the wind, it feels even colder. We're starting to feel like it's in the teens up in Iola, Parsons at 17, 14 Neodesha, 11 Independence. They did feel like 9 degrees last hour, so it's warming up a little bit there. 18 in Lamar, 24 over there in Mount Vernon. Currently in Joplin, we're sitting at 27 degrees. Wind is out of the north-northwest at 9, and it feels like 18. The dew point is 21, and the humidity is at 78%, and the pressure is currently rising. The forecast for today, we're going to see the cold air stay in place with generally readings in the 30s for highs with northerly winds. It may reach into the lower 40s down in Oklahoma with 41 in Welch and Afton, as well as Grove, 43 in Pryor and Nowata, but generally everywhere else in the 30s. Then as we go through the evening hours, we're going to see some clouds float by, and by tomorrow morning, our winds are going to turn back around to the south, but it's still going to be quite chilly with lows in the 20s, which is actually kind of normal for this time of year, lows in the mid-20s. And then as we head through Saturday afternoon, clouds increasing across our area. Temperatures will generally be reaching up into the upper 40s to around 50 degrees, including Joplin, with those southerly winds. And then as we go Saturday night into Sunday morning, those winds are going to be picking up in speed a little bit. And as a result, we're going to see lows generally in the upper 30s to around 40 degrees. And then Sunday afternoon, we're going to see increasing clouds with temperatures rising into the upper 50s to maybe even around 60 degrees, including the metro area. Definitely 60s down to the south in Oklahoma. Then Sunday night into Monday, that's when the rain chances start to increase across our area. The best chance of rain is going to be in Missouri and Arkansas and far eastern Oklahoma, less so in southeastern Kansas, where the chances of rain are going to be a little bit less. In fact, here's a look at the rainfall forecast. We're not really expecting a whole lot, maybe around a tenth or so, especially down to the south, where maybe a couple of tenths there in Miami. But notice, out to the north and west in southeastern Kansas, where they desperately need the rainfall as the drought is still in control, lighter amounts off towards the north and west. Over the next 7 days, we're going to see chilly conditions today with a high of 39, then Saturday 51 and mild, Sunday cloudy with a high of around 60, even warmer on Monday with a chance of showers in the morning. And then as we go into Tuesday, we'll see some late showers late Tuesday night into Wednesday, with a better chance of storms on Wednesday, maybe switching over to a mixture on Thursday morning like we had yesterday morning with a high of 49, then extending out even further. A little bit cool on Friday and Saturday with highs in the 40s and lows in the 30s. And looking at some late data, we could actually have a significant winter storm as we go into Sunday on next weekend. So we'll have to take a look at that a little bit closer in our forecast. But of course, we'll have more news and weather when we return right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines. The news you need to know before you head out the door. The state of Oklahoma carried out its first execution of the new year. Scott James Izimber received a lethal injection last night at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Izimber was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for the 2003 killing of A.J. Cantrell. The state's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-2 to reject a clemency recommendation. After the execution, several members of the Cantrell family spoke of the pain the family has endured and voiced concern at the length of time it took for Izimber to be executed. Izimber's execution was the 8th in Oklahoma since the state resumed executions in 2021. Authorities in Cyril, Oklahoma have arrested the caretaker of Athena Brownfield, a 4-year-old girl with autism who has been missing since Monday. Alyssa Adams, who was arrested on 2 complaints of child neglect. Police were notified Tuesday afternoon that Athena was missing after a postal carrier found her 5-year-old sister. The next day, several law enforcement response teams and volunteers completed a grid search of the entire town, including empty homes and local waterways. They even used search dogs and drones. That apparently provided no new information, and her whereabouts are still unknown. When it comes to children, parents have safety concerns around strangers and risk walking alone in the community. However, children with autism may face unique risks. They can have a tendency to fixate on certain items or display sensory-seeking behaviors, which can leave them unaware of possible dangers around them. This means parents can face unique challenges when finding ways to teach their children to be safe and not speak with strangers. On Thursday, a Fayetteville, Arkansas couple made a precious donation to Freeman Health System. Michelle and Dusty Hurst donated a cuddle cot, a small portable chamber that would stay cool to allow families dealing with the loss of a newborn child to spend time with their baby at home. The Hursts made the donation after losing 2 newborns themselves. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And if you're heading out the door, you're going to need a jacket this morning as temperatures in the 20s. And when you factor in the wind, it feels even colder out there. Now, we are expecting temperatures to warm up into the upper 30s, so we'll call it a chilly day. But then as we head into the weekend, it's going to get nice and warm, especially by Sunday. Cloudy, but a high of 60. And then as we head into Monday morning, a chance of showers with a high of 64. A little bit cooler on Tuesday, but we'll still call it mild with 57. Better chance of storms, I think, on Wednesday with some thunderstorms and a high of 58. Then some of that rain could switch over to a mixture like we had yesterday morning on Thursday morning with a high of only 48. And then in the extended period, we could actually have some snow in the forecast for next weekend. So a mild weekend this weekend, colder next weekend.
Gotcha.
All right.
All righty.
Where are we at?
Well, that'll be it for now. You can catch us on the next block on Fox 14, where your only morning news show will be live on air. Otherwise, we'll see you back here at noon.